Boxing King Media in association with Boxro. Eddie Hearn, we're in Dublin. Katie Taylor, Chantel Cameron. I've got to start with initially last year on the back end of Conor Benn, Eubank, AJ fight falling through. Slow start at the beginning of this year. A lot of people wrote you off, said you was done. The zone was done, matching were done. But you're here. I was nearly done. And you're back-to-back big fight weeks. So just tell me, how much does it mean to you to kind of turn it around and prove a lot of people wrong?
Look, when you make a gutsy move, and a move that you believe in, for a vision for what you have as a company and as a sport, you're going to get people that don't have that vision or don't have those balls that say, oh, we could have stood where we were. But look at what we've done globally. It's been unbelievable. Like the journey, the experience, and the love for the sport. But writing me off, it's a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit like turning around and going, that Ronaldo, he's overrated, isn't he? He's not really much of a player, and then he goes and scores 50 in a season. It's a bit like me, really. But look, it's a long-term game. We made a big move that was obviously massive for our business, and you're seeing now, as they say, when the tide goes out, you get to see who's swimming naked.
During them moments, was there any time you thought, fuck, I really have done my conkers yet?
No, because, look, going back to financially, obviously it was a massive move for the business, but we knew the vision that we had, and we knew the ability that we had, we knew the brand that we had. And again, I keep saying to people, like, as much as if you don't like me or whatever it is, look at the schedule and the shows consistent. No one comes close. Like, you just write it down on a piece of paper and just plan it out over months. And this week is another great example of that. Next week, we're just coming off Canelo Alvarez against John Ryder in Guadalajara in front of 55,000. You've got Katie Taylor selling out in Dublin against Chantel Cameron. You've got Lee Wood against Maurizio Lara. They're all within 3 weeks of each other. What more do you want?
You have to give credit where it's due, and that's I wanted to highlight that, because you have come back with a bang. Starting off with the main event this week, you've got Chantel Cameron. I spoke to her about just over a year ago, and she felt like she was kind of the forgotten woman in boxing. She didn't feel like she was being backed by herself, and then you've delivered for her.
Yeah, you know what? I've always had a great relationship with Chantel, but she's always felt like she wasn't a priority because of Katie. And I've always said to her, look, I'm creating this tournament for you at £140. We did that, and then obviously Kelly Reese wasn't able to fight, and then we had to get her a voluntary, and then she felt like she was forgotten again. And I said to her, look, we'll get you the opportunities. Then she fights Jessica McCaskill in Abu Dhabi, wins that, and I said, look, if you win that, you'll get the Katie Taylor fight. I don't think she believed me then either, but we've delivered on everything we promised for Chantel Cameron, and so has she. And she's got it there on a plate for her on Saturday night. The toughest fight in the sport. She believes she can go and create an unbelievable legacy and beat Katie Taylor in Dublin. And if she wins in Dublin, it'll be one of the greatest victories from an English fighter or a British fighter of all time. To go to a legend's backyard and dethrone her, or not dethrone her, but dethrone her, her number one spot of pound for pound in Dublin would be a massive achievement. And for Katie, she has a chance to be a two-division undisputed champion.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned about Katie being a legend in this country. When I got off the plane this morning, it's very rare when you land and people talk about the fight, from the taxi driver to people at the airport. Everyone's talking about the fight, so it suggests how big it is. But what does it do with regards to your plans with Katie if Chantel does derail them plans and obviously beats Katie?
I think the rematch becomes probably the biggest fight, in women's boxing again. But for Chantel, she's got the biggest fight in boxing. It's this Saturday, and if she wins, she becomes the biggest fight in world boxing. So for Katie, Serrano, Alicia Baumgardner, whatever that may be. But this is such a tough fight that really it's all on Saturday night.
And just a quick one, who is the favourite in your opinion?
Probably Katie. I think in terms of experience, in terms of resume, obviously being at home as well, I think she's a slight favourite, but I do see it as a 50-50 fight. I think, a lot depends on how quickly Chantel Cameron can close the distance and get Katie to engage with her, because if Chantel can make Katie fight for 10 hard rounds, she has a great chance in this fight. But Katie has so much speed, so much ability to bank those rounds. What we saw against Serrano was the fight unfold very quickly, and I think you're going to see that again on Saturday.
We're seeing Conor McGregor as part of the event. What involvement will he have? Obviously he's not here today, but tomorrow and the rest of the week.
Yeah, I mean, look, Conor, called out that he wanted to be involved, said he was going to sponsor the event, and he kept his word. Tidal are sponsoring Katie Taylor, Tidal are sponsoring the show, Forged Irish Stout are sponsoring the show, and we're very grateful for their support. And it shows you that it's not about him trying to make some noise. He genuinely has a passion for Irish boxing, for Katie Taylor, and he'll be there on Saturday night. And you know, his support of the event as a whole just makes it even bigger.
Terry Harper fighting Cecilia Brackhouse. If Terry does win Saturday night, is the plan to try and explore the Tasha Jonas fight?
Do you know what I just said on a stream there? It baffles me. I've learned so much in boxing over the years, and maybe I've been guilty of this in the past, but emotions are a weird thing. Like, you look at that fight now, you've got Natasha Jonas has now been inactive. She's done unbelievable. Like, she's unified a division that she shouldn't even be in. And she now has a chance to have an all-British fight for loads of money and become undisputed, right? And in a fight that she may be favourite in, or she certainly thinks she's favourite in. And it's just because they don't like someone, Steffi Ball or me or whoever it is, that you lose the opportunity to make all that money and create that legacy. For what? When's she fighting? You know? I mean, she was supposed to be fighting on the Eubank Liam Smith card. That show's now not happening. So, like...
July 1st?
No, I don't think that'll happen anyway. But even if it does, no opponent announced. Just a voluntary defence for small money because you don't like someone. I'm not giving them the opportunity. We're giving everyone's giving everyone the opportunity. It's mad. That's when you've got to really sit down with people in boxing and say, listen, mate, wind your neck in and do what's right for the fighter. And that is sit down and have a sensible conversation. You can win this fight, you can get paid a fortune, and you can leave the sport being undisputed, having loads of money, everything you ever dreamed of, you know. And that, I've probably been guilty of that in the past as well. But it's just a weird sport like that.
Just one question about a separate matter. With regards to this AJ Saudi event situation, I've seen some people on Twitter suggesting if you don't let AJ fight in the summer and he just fights in the winter, you're basically cashing him out, you're milking him. Your response to them critics?
I mean, those critics have got to understand, I don't make decisions like that. You know, I don't go to Anthony Joshua or Canelo Alvarez or Katie, all these people and say, just let you know, this is what you're doing. We talk collectively as a team. Everybody wants him to fight before he fights Wilder. But we will decide who that is and when that is, if and when we get the Wilder deal over the line. Now, we've not received any offers yet. We've had great conversations, but there's nothing to consider yet till we receive that offer. When we do, we'll look back in the August fight and say, who would that be? But if that offer doesn't come soon, we're just going to proceed with a great fight in August as well. So I want him to fight in August. So does everybody else.
And just to follow up on that, Carl Froch came out yesterday and said that he doesn't feel AJ leaves a legacy behind, kind of dismissing what he's done so far. I know you and Carl are good friends way back, so what do you think to that?
Yeah, Carl says some mad things sometimes, and like I love Carl Froch, I think he's great, but I didn't like what he said really because, look, AJ may not have had the epic number of battles that Carl Froch has had, but the legacy that he leaves in the sport in our country and for the next generation well surpasses anything that Carl ever did because Carl didn't have the profile. He's a warrior, he's a Hall of Fame fighter. But you have to respect what AJ has done. He's a great fighter, one of the great heavyweights of the modern generation. And he's not done yet. We should get behind him, and I believe he can beat Deontay Wilder.
Eddie Hearn, thank you for your time. Appreciate that.